Thank you for that update, Kristen Welker at the White House. And joining me now is Jeremy Bash, the former chief of staff both at the CIA and at the Department of Defense during the Obama administration, also an NBC national security analyst. Jeremy, let's start there, first of all, with the Russia investigation and how this complicates foreign policy writ large.
Well, clearly the president is being investigated for obstruction of justice. The lawyer is supposed to be an officer of the court. He's supposed to tell the truth. And he basically doubled down on that claim the president's not under investigation. I don't know how he knows that. A more accurate statement would have been, we haven't been contacted. We don't believe an investigation is warranted, but we'll cooperate. And there's a broader point here, which is that the more the president has to focus on being investigated on this Russia matter, I think the less bandwidth there is to deal with the many national security crises that are brewing around the world. Which
brings us to Syria. And today, for the first time, the U.S. has shot down a Syrian warplane in an engagement which the warplane was attacking resistance forces, U.S.-backed resistance forces, but this is basically getting us into a potential conflict with Russia, which backs the regime.
Well,
the Russians have already spoken.
That's right. An extraordinary series of events occurred yesterday, Andrea. U.S.-backed Syrian defense forces operating against ISIS, trying to take towns like Raqqa, trying to do some counterterrorism operations, were struck by a Syrian fighter. The U.S. called the Russians on that deconfliction telephone line that we have set up with them, and the Russians said, no, we're not going to abide by that. And then a half an hour later or an hour later, they again dropped bombs on SDF, Syrian defense forces backed by the United States, and that's when we shot down with our F-18 Super Hornet this Syrian fighter. It is an extraordinary escalation, but I will say the escalation occurred by Assad, and it occurred by the Russian-backed forces of Assad's Air Force.
What are the chances that we come into direct conflict with Russia here?
Well, I think they're high because we have not done a very good job. The United States has not done a very good job of pushing Russia out of the way. We've let Russia have too free a hand, in my view, in the skies over Syria.
And the criticism is that the president is reluctant to go after Russia. Again, this is only one place where he's reluctant to go after Russia. Another is the fact that he still resists acknowledging the Russian invasion of our cybersecurity for our elections.
From the beginning, Andrea, the big issue here has been an inexplicable lack of resolve regarding Russia. And if you talk to foreign policy experts from across the spectrum, they say Russia is not our friend. Russia is doing very bad things vis-a-vis our friends in NATO, vis-a-vis interference in our democratic process, and obviously vis-a-vis backing that murderous Assad regime. And we have not been willing to take them on.
Now, at the same time, we understand that Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, is going this week to Israel to try to negotiate the Israeli-Palestinian situation. Is that really the top priority in a region that is in such conflict? I mean, the last thing that he dealt with was the Riyadh summit, which led directly to the misunderstandings between Saudi Arabia and Qatar.
Yeah, look, I would say this, Andrea. Forceful U.S. diplomacy is very much needed in the Middle East, but if I were to rank them, I would say number one would be to help get a political resolution to the Syria crisis so we don't have an escalation of violence and all-out war. Second is to really resolve this issue brewing in the Gulf, where Qatar has been engaged in some very bad behavior, and now you see the Saudis and others trying to split that Gulf Cooperation Council group, which is a friend and ally of the United States. Third, way down, I would say, is making progress on the Israeli-Palestinian issue. I don't know why they're leading with that. I don't think U.S. interests are as implicated on that issue as they are on the first two.
Well, you say that Qatar has been doing some bad things. They have been supporting some terror groups, according to all accounts, but so have Saudi-backed groups. And we've just done a big F-18 deal, $1 billion-plus deal with Qatar, have we not?
Well, we do have important strategic interests. For example, that telephone deconfliction line that I referenced, that actually goes through Al Udeid Air Base in Doha, Qatar. And so that's why you see Secretary Mattis in the Pentagon saying, hey, we have to protect some of our interests there. But I think the bigger picture, though, I would say in the region is that Qatar has been going too close to Iran. And again, if you look at the regional dynamics, Russia has been providing cover for Syria, for the Assad regime, and for their friends in Iran. And that is a dangerous development.
Jeremy Bash, not a reassuring Monday message.
A lot to worry about.
Thanks a lot, I think.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you, Jeremy.